Why can't I get this?
Good evening, everybody.
Hello.
Pam, you're about to become host.
Okay. Thank you. Who's here?
All right, it looks like we have everyone but Drew. Is that correct?
Drew is gone.
Gone? Oh,
Yeah, he resigned in October and it's been announced or placed on file with City Council, so it's official.
okay. Gee, I didn't know that. All right, so we have a quorum. It being let's see, November 17th, 2021, 6:02 p.m. I hereby call to order this meeting of the Brockton Conservation Commission. This meeting is being conducted remotely in accordance with the government order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, general law, chapter 38, section 20. Real-time participation and comment can be addressed to the Conservation Commission, specifically through the chair, using the Zoom virtual meeting software for remote access. This application will allow users to view the meeting and send a comment or question to the chair via the question and answer function. Submitted text comments will be read into the record at the appropriate time. You can also ask a question by raising your hand. If you are calling in by phone to raise your hand, press *9 on your phone. A copy of this recording will be available on the city's web pages, and we will do all votes by way of roll call to ensure account accuracy. When your name is called, meaning the members of the board, please indicate that you are present. And just a reminder to members of the public, if you do have a question and you are allowed to speak, please state your name and address for the record. The first item on the agenda is a request for certificate of compliance for 86 Melrose Avenue. And who do we have present for that, Pam?
Carl?
Yes, I'm promoting.
I think it's just Carl.
It's Carl is the builder and then Bill Self is the surveyor.
Okay.
I don't see Bill here.
Oh,
He's
Pam,
there.
can you hold on a second, because I thought I had you on speaker and now I can't hear you. Let's see, this is not going to work well. Please bear with me for a minute. Okay. Okay. Megan, would you like to summarize your review and comments?
Sure. At this point, the outstanding concern was relocating the fence out of the 25-foot buffer zone and placing the limit of work markers in the correct location. At this point, that has been done. The fence has been relocated to square off the yard. The markers are in place. So at this point, there are no leftover concerns for issuing the COC.
Okay, Mr. Self, do you have anything to add?
Good evening. No, I think Megan's had a chance to review our plan. We did have the difficulty of getting the fence company to be able to relocate that, and it worked out finally, but sorry for the delay. And the markers have all been set. I sent over some pictures. You should have them in a packet there, and all in all, it worked very well, and hopefully that satisfies the commission's needs.
Any comments, questions from the commission? Seeing none, do I have a motion to issue a certificate of compliance for 86 Melrose Avenue?
Joanne here,
Sparks.
so moved.
Bonnie, do you second that?
Sparks here, I second.
All in favor, Danielson, aye. Bonnie?
Zigman, aye.
Sparks, aye.
Oh, my goodness, okay. Joyce, you're muted.
Boris, Stephanie, I can barely hear you. Is anyone having difficulty hearing
Yeah,
Steph?
it's very low.
Okay, well, I can,
Okay.
yeah, I mean, is that better?
That's better,
Yes.
much better.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Sorry about that. All right, so the motion passes. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is a request for a
Thank you very
certificate.
much.
You're welcome. Certificate of compliance for 955 Belmont Street. And who do we have present for that, Pam?
Is it, Megan, do you know whether it's Rich? You moved him, okay. I need you to raise your hands when you're, because some of these names I don't recognize.
Okay, so is there, oh,
Well, now his hand is up. I
Rich
knew.
is here.
I don't know, we had someone named Diffusco and now they're gone.
He's been moved to panelist.
Okay, oh, sorry about that. All right, Megan, do you want to summarize your review and comments?
Sure. So this is the convenience store gas service station redevelopment at 955 Belmont Street. I've gone out there twice in the past couple months to confirm first that the planting and site work was completed according to the approved plans with the minor planting revisions that you had accepted at a previous meeting. And then finally to confirm that the permanent limit of work markers have been installed, which they have been. At this point, all the plantings are in, the slope to the limit of work was loamed and seeded. And at this point, it's pretty well established. So at this point, I don't see any additional concerns or anything that would prevent issuing the certificate of compliance at this time.
Okay. Do you have anything to add, Mr. Diffusco?
No, I think we should be all set at this point.
Okay, any members of the commission have any questions or comments? Okay, do I have a motion to issue a certificate of compliance with E1, 2, and 3 as continuing conditions as recommended by Megan? Looks like Joyce is making the motion.
I am. I believe it's E1 and E2 only. Is that correct?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was reading the next one, E1 and E2.
Yes.
Okay, I make that motion.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Zigman here, I'll second.
Okay, Danielson, aye.
Boris,
Zigman, aye.
Sparks, aye.
Motion passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The The next item on the agenda is a request for certificate of compliance for 485 Pearl Street.
Okay, so I'm going to start moving people now, though this first one is for the old order of conditions. So the one for what was originally the larger house at 485 Pearl Street that was never built. And so I believe the lawyers involved in the current sale filed this because that order is now expired and that house was never built. They're looking to close out that old order by issuing the certificate of compliance for an invalid order.
Okay, and the old order would be 0699.
Yes.
This is the first one. So they're seeking a motion to issue a certificate of compliance, finding that the work never commenced and the order has since expired. Do I have a motion to that effect?
Zigmund here, so moved.
Do I have a second?
Second, Boris.
Danielson, I.
Sparks, aye.
Zigmund, aye.
Boris, I.
All right.
Oh,
Oh, we
Beekler,
can
aye.
hardly hear you, Stephanie.
Sorry.
I'm sorry. Do I still have to, I don't know
It's
what's
cutting
up.
in and out on my end at least. So sometimes we
Yeah.
can hear you really loud and clear and sometimes not.
Okay, I don't know what's going on. Maybe my internet is slow today, although everybody else on that end seems to be doing fine. All right, so the motion passes. And this is followed by number SE 118-0777, request for certificate of compliance for 485 Pearl Street. So Megan, it looks like all the work has been done, is completed. And based on your review, the commission should issue an order of conditions.
Yes, the house was built according to the plan under this order. The limit of work markers are in, the site has been loamed and seeded with a good amount of grass growth. The site's pretty flat, so there wasn't much of an erosion risk at this site to begin with. But yeah, other than that, the work was completed under this order as approved.
Okay, any questions from the commissioners? Okay, it looks like Megan's recommending issuance of a certificate of compliance with ongoing conditions E1, 2, and 3. Do I have a motion?
Boris, oh,
Do I have a second?
Sparks here, I'll second.
All in favor, Danielson, I.
Sparks, aye.
Zigmund,
Boris,
aye.
I.
Beekler, aye.
Passes. The next item on the agenda is a request for certificate of compliance for 490 North Carey Street. Okay.
I don't see anyone.
These are all going to be Holmgren's office.
Were they not planning to attend tonight, or is that
Matt's
Matt?
already
Matt.
here
No,
in
I'm
Holmgren's
here, yeah.
office.
Right, sorry, Matt.
It's all right.
Okay. Megan, do you want to give us an update on that one?
Yes, so at the last meeting, I had given the update that they had further stabilized the site, cleaning up the soil breakthrough, edging the lawn, putting down some gravel. There was a concern about gravel migrating from the toe of the slope, and so it was requested that some permanent edging be put in at the toe of the slope. Since then, that edging has been put in. So at this point, my recommendation was the same as from my previous report, that if the commission is satisfied now with the degree of stabilization that's been done since July at this point, then otherwise everything is all set, that the commission could issue the order of condition, issue the certificate of compliance.
And Megan, I just, I want to share my screen and then I just have a question about the stabilization. All right, can you see the photos?
Yeah.
Okay. So looking at this, it is what was placed to contain the stone. It looks like rubber. I'm not sure what the material is. Is it weed cloth or?
No, it's like the hard landscape rubber.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
Okay, and that is intended to keep the stone from migrating.
Correct.
If I look at this, Megan, in this area where my arrow is, it looks like it's already kind of overtopping.
Well,
I think
Can you blow,
it's the more
sorry, I
the
was just gonna say, can you
installation.
blow it
Yeah.
up?
This is the area.
Yeah.
I'm talking. So I'm sorry, Megan, you were saying?
Oh, I think it was Joanne asked if we could click on one of the photos to enlarge it. But I think I know what you're referring to, and I don't think it's a case of that the gravel was overtopping it. I think there is a bit of a gap between where the edging was installed and the silt sock.
correct.
Uh-huh. Okay, this is the silt sock right here.
Right.
So I
Yep.
think there's a
Okay.
little gravel between from when they installed it. It doesn't look like the edging itself looks like it's tall enough to contain the gravel. I think when they installed it, just some of it ended up between the edging and the silt sock.
Okay. Any other questions from the commissioners? Okay. Again, on this one, Megan recommends issuing an order of conditions with the continuing conditions of E1, E2, and E3. Do I have a motion to issue that?
I'll make a motion to issue an order of compliance for 490 North Carey Street with the
Did I say order of
agent-
conditions?
with the agent advised order of conditions, continuing conditions E1, E2, and E3.
All right, do we have a second?
I'll second that, Joanne.
All in favor, Danielson, aye.
Sparks, aye.
Sigmund, aye.
Boris, aye.
Eclair.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is a request for a certificate of compliance for, actually, Megan, do we want to take these together or take them in order for 1014 Pearl Street?
I've sort of grouped them together because it's the same site, but the one that's under file number 704 is more work than the subsequent one. The subsequent one is just the potty areas, which is why they're listed separately. They are separate orders. So, I had listed them chronologically since the building expansion predated the subsequent request to do the potty areas as its own NOI. So I think either way, they're going to be considered separately because they are separate orders.
Mhm.
It might make sense to start with the building addition since that's
Okay.
what sort of started the work on the site.
Everything. Okay. And do you want to summarize your report, please?
Okay, so this, yes, was the older order of conditions. I believe it's from around 2016. But from reviewing the file, this was originally for an addition to the rear of the building and then associated expansion of the parking lot with stormwater management improvements for that parking area. So based on my site visit and my comparison of the as-built plan to the approved plan and the site conditions, the parking lot itself, the building addition, and the stormwater system seems to be installed as approved. Sort of looking at the site as a whole, I did make note of several site variations in relation to that work. Some of them are sort of out of conservation jurisdiction. Some of them are within the 100-foot buffer. So I just noted them all to keep a record of them. So for example, things that are sort of out of the 100-foot is that the dumpster has been relocated. It was within the 100-foot. It has been relocated outside the 100-foot buffer zone at this point. There's an additional curb cut to the new parking area, though that curb cut is outside the 100-foot buffer zone. And then for work variations within the buffer zone itself, the pre-existing dog fenced-in exercise area surrounding the building at the time of the order of conditions was wood chips and was proposed as wood chips, has now been replaced with the same sort of artificial canine turf that was used in the potty areas. Also in that exercise area, there are 3, I would describe them as open framed accessory structures. So not sheds, but sort of what you would think of as like wooden tents almost, you know, gazebo type roofed structures in that exercise area. And then finally, sort of between the curb cuts, there was a proposed landscape median sort of area with plantings. That area is currently, instead of landscaped, it's gravel, and it appears to be used for parking like company vehicles, so vans and things with the company logo on it, which is sort of, you know, looks like not as it was proposed for. It looks like it was just a landscaped area, and the parking lot expansion was intended to accommodate the additional need for parking. So overall, it seems like there were multiple smaller changes that on the whole, I wanted to present to the commission just as, you know, the deviations as a whole from the plan versus what was approved. I think the commission then needs to determine, you know, do these changes together or any of these individual changes constitute a major change, or are they small enough to be adequately captured in the as-built as is? And going from there, I would say, if the commission does issue a certificate of compliance, in addition to the regular ongoing conditions, I would recommend an additional condition requiring that all vehicles be parked within the approved paved parking area, so that that area that was supposed to be a median sort of strip is not being used for parking, because also, in addition to the stormwater and runoff issues, there is a city ordinance that states that commercial parking must be paved. So technically, you can't use a gravel area for parking anyways. So that's an additional concern outside of the conservation sort of jurisdiction and the fact that it is within the 100-foot buffer zone.
Okay, Mr. Tavares, do you have any comments?
Yeah, so I'm not, just so you guys understand, that area up front, do you have the plan in front of you? Or it might be easier to pull it up. All right. So the area up front where they're parking, it says.
Or do you have it available and you can share your screen, Matt?
I just have it on paper. I don't have it electronically right now.
Well, I do have it. I think it's, if you're gonna reference the plan, we should have it available.
Yeah, just to explain where they.
Actually, I'm
where they
pretty sure I have it.
parking.
And this is-
I've got it up, Stephanie, if you want me to share my screen.
Yeah, I have it up as well. Okay, let's see.
Awesome. So yeah, if you just scroll down just a little bit further. So kind of above where it's.
It's here.
Yep. So that strip that's sticking out, they have two vans. They usually park, one kind of on that part sticking out and the other right behind it. And they just use it for.
Them as signage?
was
Possibly? Are they using them as signage?
Could be used for advertisement as well, but they do just have them there. Actually, I saw it when I was doing the as-built out there. I saw them parked there. It's just a small little vehicle storage area. They don't stay there all day. They just use them there for when they're not transporting the dogs around or carrying them. Where they
Right,
need
but this area was supposed to be landscaped
Correct. Yep.
and it is not because, do you know why?
I don't know why, actually. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Nope.
Commissioners, any other comments, questions?
Yes, I feel like the landscaping was completely removed in favor of impermeable surface or pea stone, and I have an issue. I take issue with that for several different reasons.
Yeah,
So what could have possibly been the rationale for that, other than just hoping to essentially just do it and then ask for forgiveness afterwards? Because I feel like there's a lot of small little things that were changed, and I feel like I could make a point about adding structures, but given the intention of the structures is likely to give the animals comfort,
Exactly.
I am not going to be difficult on that one, but as far as the landscaping is concerned, I think both counts are, I don't want to say negligent, but they knew what they were doing when they decided not to put the landscaping in, and that's a problem.
Is that referencing just that parking or where else?
And all along the 100-foot buffer line where that was supposed to be landscaped and is now loose pea stone.
Oh, in the back, yeah, by the
Mhm.
lunch pool. Okay, yep. Yeah, they did stone that whole area.
So, because you don't seem to have Joyce, would you like to, I see your hand raised.
Stephanie, I just had a quick question. I'm not sure, I didn't have really good resolution on my computer when I was looking at the as-built versus what the original plan was. But it looked to me like originally there was gonna be a section of wood chips behind the building. And now there's like that canine grass, like almost surrounding the building, almost towards the river side or the stream side. And I just wasn't sure what the end result would be as far as capturing dog waste that might be there, or versus having drainage through. I don't know. It just looked to me like there was a difference between the as-built and what the original plan was.
And I'm not even sure what area we're talking about. In the future.
The Canine Turf. The Canine Turf looks like it's behind the building, to the right of the building, almost near the brook.
Right.
I just don't know.
So I'm going to do a little bit of housekeeping here, Pam, and Megan, in the future. I would really like the applicant to come prepared to share their screen so they can navigate the areas. So Matt,
Okay.
if you could direct me, where is the new turf? I see turf
So-
here,
Yep,
I
so
don't-
if you can
and
see.
here, and
Yep.
here.
Is that all
Correct.
indoors?
Nope, that's all outside.
Okay,
Yep, yeah, the
This
building
is
ends.
all-
Yeah, there's a ton of fences and, little gateways to kind of separate the dogs back there while they're moving them around. But most of the area is all that canine turf. You can see kind of on the right side of the building where it says kennels paved. They have a few areas back there that are actual pavement, but the rest of it is all that canine turf.
could I just ask a quick question, Matt?
Yeah.
My understanding is when you have canine turf, whatever waste or whatever happens to get between the different layers of the turf, and then it gets hosed down and bactericidals are added and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yep.
To prevent smell. Wouldn't that wash into the brook?
They don't wash it that way. Everything heads towards the building. They're out there like 2 times a day doing it.
Okay, I didn't see, it wasn't clear on the map that I had. This is much finer actually, to see what the elevations were like and stuff. I just wasn't really sure.
Yeah, they're actually pretty cautious about it when they do it. I was surprised.
I don't know,
Okay,
it just seemed different from what the original plan was.
Joanne, I see your hand raised.
Yeah, I think I'm just echoing what Bonnie and Joyce really are saying. I think that there are some pretty substantial changes to this. I remember at our previous meetings talking about this project, and there was a lot of discussion around landscaping and the importance of impermeable surfaces and such. And I kind of feel like that wasn't really taken to heart with some of the changes that have been made to the site now.
Yeah, and I will echo that. I feel like this applicant repeatedly, this is not the first time they're here for if I'm not mistaken, the second request for certificate of compliance is because they did work that wasn't permitted previously. It was observed and brought to their attention, so they came back and filed a notice of intent for that work. It seems like they totally disregard what has been approved. And there is a big difference between a landscaped island, and as Bonnie has pointed out and Joanne has echoed, and gravel there. And the only purpose so the landscaped island, I would assume it provides a couple of things. One is visual relief from the hardscape of the paved areas, which I would think that the planning board would be concerned with. And I would assume that the planning board had to do site plan review for this. And it provides some infiltration, even if it's not a component or a major component of the stormwater system. And it really is unattractive. I drive by this on a regular basis.
Me too.
And I remember when they were first brought before the commission, when they purchased this property so many years ago. It was a big turquoise building. I can't remember what was operating there. And everyone seemed so pleased because they were transforming the building, rehabilitating it, and making it look more attractive. And now it's really just a sea of hardscape. And they have ignored their own plans and the approved project. Could we explain the shelters? And again, I presumed, like Bonnie did, the shelters were put up for the purpose of protecting the pets and the animals. But again, everything seems like an afterthought as well.
What are you referring to when you say the shelters?
Aren't we talking these little shelters here? The roofs, the structures, the lean-to?
The roofs.
The
Yeah,
canopies.
Yep. Yeah, they're just basically, 4 posts with a roof on them. They're just so when the dogs go out there, if it's raining or anything.
Well, no, I understand they're just, but again, they seem like, okay, was there no thought put into what they might need there when they were coming to us in the first place. So it could have been incorporated into the original plan.
Right, right. It might have just been an afterthought once they realized how much room they had. Do something for the animals while they're out there.
So I've like to also bring up, and since this is, to make for the animals, which was just stated, it appears if you look at the approved plan versus the as-built plan, what happened to all of the trees that were supposed to be left? Because there was only supposed to be 2 trees removed, and in the as-built, it shows all of them are gone. And now they've put in these little 4-legged structures in place of what was once trees.
Trees that were in the fenced-in area.
If you look at the, I'm looking at the Pearl approved plan right now. And if you look at, oh gosh, what is it? East, like the far east above the building, you can see where all of the trees were. And you can see that there was, it says existing trees to be removed, and it points them, the ones that are in certain areas where the building is being expanded or there's work being done, but the other trees are not marked to be moved. And on the as-built, there are no trees on the plan. There's none. So did they take down like, what is it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6?
It's now that you say that, there is actually 2 trees out back that aren't shown on this plan that are within the fenced-in area. But I'm just trying to find the plan that you're talking about. I don't think this is the right one. Oh yeah, right here. Yeah, you're right.
I can share too if need be, but
yeah, if you wouldn't mind, just to make sure I'm looking
actually,
at the same thing.
can I share? I don't know if I've.
It would be nice to see the 2 of them side by side.
I know.
That's what I've been doing, because the other one has been up, and I've been looking at this one to compare the as-built versus the approved. Let's see if I can share. I don't know if I can do that. Yeah, I don't know if I can actually screen share. I don't see it.
Well, I can share if we want to bring up the approved plan, I can share it.
Okay.
That would be helpful.
Madam Chair, do you want me to do you want us to send a notice to all applicants telling them that for the next meeting,
Yes, please.
they need to come prepared?
Yes, to do the presentation. If we were in person, they would be prepared to do that. So.
Exactly.
Okay, can we see the approved plan?
Yes.
Okay, I'm trying to scroll into the rear area there that Bonnie's looking at.
I guess the question, Matt, is were those trees removed? Or are they just not shown on your as-built plan?
Yeah, so
As they should be.
Yeah, in the back left corner of the property, where those fences are, those trees are still there. As for, there's another tree kind of on the back right side of the building as well. But it looks like the trees that they intended to remove are in fact removed.
And so was that shown on the plan, Megan, that these trees were going to be removed?
So this, what we have up here is the approved plan from 2016. So this predates me. So unfortunately, I can't comment on what the ground conditions look like at the time. I can only go by this plan. But what I'm seeing on the plan is that it's showing those trees in the back, and it appears to be pointing out 2 that were to be removed.
Right.
So my assumption then would be that
All the rest
it should be the same ones minus those 2 with the arrows.
And could you just mouse over the ones with the arrows?
It looks like
Okay.
one there that
Right.
would have been under where the building footprint went. And the same thing, it looks like it's pointing to this one here, the same thing, it looks like it would have been under the new building footprint.
Megan, can you confirm that the trees on the right-hand side of the plan there were removed? Do you remember? When you
To
did
be
your?
honest, when I was out there doing this site follow-up, I didn't count the trees. You know, these are a lot of these differences I picked up just by comparing the two plans. Again, unfortunately, because I wasn't part of the existing conditions review originally, I didn't really have, you know, a sense of the site to pick up on, you know, some of the changes that have happened in the past few years. So the number of trees wasn't one of the things I was looking for when I did my site inspection. So some of these discrepancies, again, came up from comparing the plans because it has been a few years. So I'm not sure exactly how many trees are out in the back currently.
Okay. So it sounds like the as-built conditions are not in compliance with the order of conditions. And it sounds like the commission feels is pretty much in agreement that the island area out front should be constructed the way it was approved, with landscaping and the gravel and everything removed, and it stopped being used immediately for parking. And we should get an updated plan that shows what trees are remaining out back.
Okay.
Is there any of the other, I mean, again, I wouldn't have as much concern about these canopies if that was the only thing
Right.
that was out of line with the approved plan, but there's several items.
Mhm.
So that's you know, what's the board's sentiment? And Megan, I think you can stop sharing the screen at this point. Thank you.
It's Joanne here. I kind of feel the same way. I feel like I can understand that canopies might be an afterthought. Oh, the dogs need shade or protection from rain or whatever. Maybe that's not something you consider as you're developing a project to the scale. But the island up front, I think, is definitely a whole nother kettle of fish. And I feel pretty strongly that it absolutely should be the way it was originally intended to be.
Okay, so do I have a motion to deny the certificate of compliance for this project for project number SE 1180777?
That is the new one, the building
Oh,
addition.
I'm sorry, did the 0699. No, right? 0699.
704.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm in the totally wrong place. Sorry, on my edge.
Zygmunt here. So I make a motion to deny the certificate of compliance for somebody remind me what it was?
1180704.
For that one that Megan just said. Thank you.
Have a second.
Sparks here, I second.
All in favor, Danielson, aye.
Sparks, aye.
Zygmunt, aye.
Boris, I.
Declare.
Motion passes. The next item on the agenda is the request for certificate of compliance for 1014 Pearl Street for the doggy potty areas. Okay. And Megan, do you want to summarize your report, please?
Yes, so this was the subsequent order of conditions issued specifically for the potty areas that were under construction previously, and then also some additional work was added in. In this case, it was some additional split rail wooden fencing. So this order was specifically for that work. The two potty areas, one in the front by Pearl Street and one by the side of the building, and then the split rail fencing that goes in front of the building and then along the edge of the pavement in front of the riverfront area. And so as part of that order, there were some additional requirements requested by the commission. First was the planting of 25 ferns, originally proposed as sword ferns, but switched to 25 cinnamon ferns in the order to use a native species. I did confirm back in May that those 25 ferns were planted in the area shown. And then the other requirement was that some signage be placed in the riverfront area. So there's signage, one directing pet owners not to bring their pets into the riverfront area to use the potty areas instead, and then some riverfront signage identifying the area and listing some of the values and the reasons for protecting the riverfront area. So in terms of this work, the potty areas and the fencing was installed as approved, and the additional sort of mitigation work was completed as approved. The signs are up. I believe I submitted a couple pictures so the commission can see the language. So in terms of this order covering this work was done according to the order. So I think the commission could consider issuing the certificate of compliance confirming that the potty areas and the split rail fence and the remediation work were done as approved.
Any questions or comments from the commissioners? Do I have a motion to issue a certificate of compliance with the ongoing conditions of E1 and E2 as recommended by Megan? Joyce? Oh, you still can't hear me. I'm sorry. Do I have a motion? I think it's the laryngitis that I had earlier and my voice isn't projecting. Do I have a motion to issue a certificate of compliance for this project 118-0776 with the ongoing conditions E1 and E2?
Zygmunt here, so moved.
Do we have a second?
Sparks here, I second.
All in favor, Danielson, aye.
Sparks, aye.
Versa.
Zygmunt, aye.
Clara.
Motion passes. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is a notice of intent for 85 Peterson Avenue.
Do we need to continue 219 Bellevue first?
Did I miss?
I think that's after this one.
That's the next one.
Oh, okay.
after
Mine
this.
are out of order.
I'm sorry. Okay. Do we have a DEP number for this one, Megan?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And we're opening this hearing, so do we have a butter notification, verification of a butter notification?
Yes, we had it at a previous meeting. This was a case where it was going to open at a previous meeting and then was continued now to this meeting since we didn't have the October meeting.
Okay, would you please give us a summary of your report?
Yes, so this was originally a new single-family house approved and built back around 2017 as part of a small 2-lot subdivision. And as part of that plan, there was an approved limit of work that currently also represents the current limit of clearing and the limit of the edge of the lawn as exists now. And if you looked at the proposed plan, it's sort of not a squared off limit of work as was approved previously. So this notice of intent is submitted because the owner wants to basically square off the lot up to the 25 foot at the closest point and then install a fence along that new limit of work. So it is going to require a bit more clearing of the existing brush line, and it would be an expansion a bit of the existing lawn and then the installation of a fence. So it is representing sort of an expansion past the limit of work that was approved previously. However, it is a very small expansion. The limit of work was not that far off from the 25 foot to begin with. So by squaring it off, you're not talking about too much additional clearing. At this point, it's more the corners would probably be the areas that would be cleared and to square off those corners to install the fence. So based on impacts there, it's a generally small area. So, and it is still staying out of the 25 foot at the closest point. It's about at the 25 foot as proposed. So I think based on what they've provided, there's enough information to consider issuing an order of conditions to do that bit of extra clearing to expand the lawn and put up the fence. I would recommend that if the order of condition is issued, a couple special conditions in addition, just to make it clear the work that's going to be done so that that new limit of work should be staked out prior to the pre-construction meeting and the clearing, just to double check to make sure they are staying out of the 25 foot. And then also just double checking, clarifying that the fence needs to go on the upland side of the limit of work, because as we know, there's going to be a silt sock put down. And ultimately, I think we want to make sure that the fence goes on the upland side of the limit of work, just in case we don't get a little bit of extra clearing going even a little bit farther just to put the fence in. I think we want to really nail down that the silt sock is going to be the limit of work. So everything, including the fence, is going to go inside that. And then again, the condition of the permanent markers to be shown on the as-built plan as well for future reference.
Any comments or questions from the commissioners? Okay, do I have a motion to issue a?
Somebody, Madam Chair, does somebody with their hand up?
Okay, could you please recognize that person? Can you make them a panelist so they can speak?
Yeah, he's moved over.
Yeah.
He's
You
still.
can also unmute people without making them pay.
Can you? I haven't experienced that in my other work. So please unmute yourself, and for the record, please state your name and address. Okay, Mr. Dolliver, do you wish, or do you have a question or a comment? And if you do, you will need to unmute yourself.
No, not at this time. Thank you.
Okay. No question, because we're going to move on. All right, seeing no other members of the public wishing to speak, I would entertain a motion to issue an order of conditions with
I think
the
Stephanie, do you need to
conditions.
close the hearing?
Oh, yes, sorry. We have so many certificates of compliance. Do I have a motion to close the hearing?
Sparks, I make a motion to close the hearing.
Do I have a second?
Zigmund second.
All in favor, Danielson, aye.
Sparks, aye.
Zigmund, aye.
Forsyth,
Clara,
Motion passes. Do I have a motion to issue an order of conditions with the conditions outlined in Megan's report?
Sparks here, so moved.
Second,
Zigmund second.
all in favor, Danielson, aye.
Sparks, aye.
Zigmund, aye.
Forsyth,
Clara.
Motion passes. Thank you. All right, the next item on the agenda is a notice of intent for 219 Bellevue Avenue. And Matt, are you here for that one?
Yeah, I believe we put in a request to continue that one.
Okay,
Yes, it came in this afternoon.
so you would like to continue?
Please, thank you.
Okay. So do I have a motion to continue? And to what date would you like to continue?
To the next meeting. I'm not sure what it is on the top of my head.
I believe it's December 15th.
December 15th. Okay.
Pam, can you confirm that? Is it December 15th?
Yes,
Okay. All right, do I have a motion to continue the hearing to December 15th?
Zigmund, I motion to continue to the next meeting.
for a second,
All in favor, Danielson, aye.
Sparks, aye.
Zigmund, aye.
Forsyth,
Clara.
Motion passes. Okay, the next item on the agenda is 940 Belmont Street. And Megan, would you like to give a summary of your report, please?
yes. So this is a continuation of the roadway improvement project proposed for the southern end of the VA hospital. So the roadway coming in from the West Chestnut Street entrance. There's been revisions going back and forth going on for several months now. After a few months of not receiving any updates, we did ahead of this meeting receive a revised set of plans that was reviewed by Beta Group and myself. Beta Group issued a follow-up report with their requests for additional calculations and stormwater follow-up as they outline in their report. In my report, in relation mostly to the limit of work, some of my previous comments, most of my previous comments have been addressed. I carried over a couple, particularly about specifying the erosion control barrier, and the limit of work has been revised to try to bring it out of the 25-foot buffer zone as was requested previously. It mostly has been brought out except for the intersection where the stream crosses. So it looks like there is sort of inevitably some work proposed in the 25-foot. So my follow-up comments on that is that, if it's inevitable that there's going to be clearing and grubbing within the 25-foot buffer zone, there should be a call out with some restoration plantings for that area to make sure that the existing lawn doesn't expand ultimately from where it is now. And then also with the moved limit of work, I noted that as the current plan shows now, the limit of work crosses one of the wetland flags. So that should probably be double checked, you know, in terms of the survey and the proposed limit of work, because even though it's only a small area, technically, if they are going to cross the BVW in that area, then they will be altering that bit of area they're crossing over. So again, to double check and see if they can't keep the limit of work out of that BVW altogether, because if they do propose altering it, then it needs to be restored or replicated. Again, even if it is a small area, technically, you know, if you put it in the limit of work, then whatever square footage that is needs to be accounted for in a restoration plan. So I think those are, in terms of the limit of work, those are my remaining comments, would just to double check the limit of work in that 25-foot potential BVW area. And then again, add in any restoration that may be needed on that plan. And then at this point, again, I'd make the point that although they've pulled most of the limit of work out of the 25-foot, they are proposing working up to that limit of work. So you've got grading and clearing and grubbing within that very small footprint. So once the rest of the commission's concerns are addressed, I will be recommending additional special conditions to help protect that limit of work, to avoid encroachment beyond it, because they are going to be working very close to the 25-foot along most of the length of this project.
Matt, do you have anything to add?
No, not really. Just she's kind of covered it all. You know, we got a review from Beta on November 4th. So we are in contact with the VA engineers right now and kind of going back and forth on all the revisions that we need to change. We did re-notify the abutters. Those have been sent out, and they have plans to have a set of revised plan for you for the December meeting.
Okay, so now I'm a little confused. The plan set I have in front of me is dated 10/25/21. Megan, your review was based on the 10/21 plan?
Yes, so both Beta and my review were based on, yes, the October plan set. I believe it's October 25th. So then there's Beta's review comment letter from November 3rd in response to that plan set. And then my revised report dated November 4th based on that plan set. And the comments that I just made were from that report in response to that October plan set.
Right, so are we waiting for another, I'm sorry if I missed this in reviewing your report or in what you just stated, Megan, but Matt, you just said that you're going to be submitting another revised set of plans. And what are those plans showing?
It's the Beta's comments from their last review on, I believe it's November 3rd and November 4th.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So until we get that, we're not really ready to close the hearing.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Do any of the commissioners have any questions, comments? One concern I have, and it's one I've had all along, is the location of the proposed staging and laydown area.
Okay.
It is, while it appears to be outside, it is outside the 25-foot buffer. I mean, it would seem to me that there might be a better location that's on the other side of the roadway.
Okay.
Rather than in such close proximity to the resource area. Does it have to be in the 100-foot buffer? And I brought this up at the very first hearing.
Oh, did they have a reason
First
for it?
meeting.
did they have a reason for it to need to be where it is? Or?
I thought Scott said they would look into moving it. And,
Okay,
and
I'm-
again, it's just never been moved.
Yeah, Scott's been going back and forth with the engineers, like I said, for the VA. So I'll make a note about it to have him revisit that and to make sure he lets them know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank
and
you.
it looks like it has, so when we first opened the hearing, that proposed laydown area was partially in the 25-foot. So it looks like it has been moved in the sense that it's now proposed outside the 25-foot, but it is still in the same general location.
And I mean, I'm guessing the laydown area is going to have material, soils and things like that. And
Right.
to me, that's one of your weak points, your areas that are susceptible to having problems down the road.
Okay, yeah, I'll definitely make a note for him to review that.
Okay, thank you. So you want to continue to the December meeting? Do you think you'll have your revised plans in time?
Yeah, Scott told me that they were planning on having for the December meeting, so.
Okay. Do I have a motion to continue this hearing to December 15th?
Joanne Ziegler, I make a motion to continue to the next meeting.
Do we have a second?
For a second?
All in favor? Danielson? Aye.
Sparks, aye.
For a
Wickman,
second?
aye.
For a
Biegler,
second?
aye.
Okay, motion passes.
I
The
can
next
get-
item on the agenda is 93 Tilton Avenue. Have someone, we have.
Peter, are you the engineer?
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. Yes, I work with Collins Engineering. I'm one of the engineers representing the owner for the project. I don't know if you can see me, or if I can share a plan for you, or how you'd like to proceed.
Megan, do you want to just review why this project is before, some of the background on this project?
Sure, so this property 93 Tilton Ave, it's a large, I guess you could describe it as a retreat lot. So it's set back on a long shared driveway, back abutting Gary's farm and the Thorny Golf Course. There is a USGS identified stream that flows north to south through the lot that flows into West Meadowbrook as it continues through Thorny and down under Belmont Street. So this site previously, based on my review of the records, I was not able to locate any previous filings, any previous notice of intent or order of conditions for this property. However, there was an enforcement order from 2006 when the site was under previous ownership. At the time on the site, in addition to the driveway, there was a single family house and it looks like 2 accessory structures at that time. And from what I can tell from reviewing the available information in our filings, it looks like this enforcement order was issued a couple of times for clearing within the riverfront area. And it looks like no restoration work or any remediation was proposed. So ultimately, there was a final issuance of the enforcement order that was recorded, and that enforcement order called for the submission of a wetland restoration plan to address the riverfront clearing. As far as I can tell, at least from our files, there was no work or plan ever proposed. And it looks like the site has remained dormant and for the past 15 years, with the exception of, it looks like the 2 accessory structures and probably garages or sheds were demolished a few years ago. The house itself still remains, though it looks like, again, it doesn't look like there's been any subsequent work on the site, so there has been additional vegetation growth, but there is a lot of invasive species in there now, particularly around the pond. That area is now dominated with Japanese knotweed, and then surrounding the northern accessory structure, the concrete pad for that garage is surrounded by knotweed. In terms of, it sounds like from the enforcement, there was also dumping on the site, and there is still evidence of that on the site today. Looks like a combination of debris, maybe some construction type debris. Some of it's piled up near the pond, and then there's some various items strewn about the site since then. But beyond that, it looks like the site is now under new ownership, and it is under that new ownership that a rehab of the house and the installation of a septic system is being proposed for that house. And so that's where this current notice of intent is picking up. When I spoke to the new owner, about the enforcement order, I had suggested that if they were proposing additional work on the site, that enforcement order could be addressed as part of an order of conditions that could be issued for any future work. So I think going forward, that will be part of the discussion, is the combination of the work that's being proposed and then how the commission wants to address that unanswered enforcement order as they consider, a new order of conditions for work on the site.
Okay, thank you, Megan. Mr. Lyons?
Yes. Would I be able to share my screen with the commission?
Yes, please, yes.
All
And
right.
also if you could turn your video on, I would appreciate that.
Yep, I believe someone has to give me permission to do so. You might need to make me a panelist, or.
You are a panelist. Pam, do you have to allow him to turn on his video?
Yeah, he is a panelist.
You should be able to turn it on yourself.
Yep, now I can. How are we? All right, I can pull up my screen.
Yeah.
Can someone just confirm that we can see this?
Yep.
Awesome. So again, for an introduction, I'm Peter Lyons with Collins Engineering Group, representing the property owner out here. Basically what we're doing is, it's an old abandoned house at this point with a failed septic system. I'll point a few things out on the plan. Basically, as mentioned, we have a stream that runs north to south, with a pond in between. We have an associated bordering vegetated wetland line that stems off the southern portion of the pond and up into the existing field. There's a second wetland line to the northern section of the stream. I'll just kind of trace along that here. The house falls outside of the 50-foot buffers to the BVW, but within the 100-foot. So we are dealing with BVW buffers and riverfront buffers on this site. Our general plan of attack is to get the proposed septic system away from the existing well in the middle of the site, while also maximizing our distance to the wetland resources. So what we're proposing is kind of tucking the new leaching field in the northwestern corner of the property, which is kind of a high point on the site. So it's favorable materials with sands and gravels. And that'll maximize our distance to the wetlands as well as the existing stream. We are abandoning and replacing the existing cesspool that's located just to the east off the property. East of the house, I'm sorry. So that is within the 100-foot inner riparian zone to the stream, and also within the 50-foot to the buffer. So just the addition of the new septic, is a good thing. We're getting the old failed system, bringing it up to modern codes. It'll help the groundwater. It is a pump system. There is high groundwater out here. So what we're gonna do is just run a line out to a septic tank and a pump chamber, and then chase the grade up into this northwestern corner here. Couple quick numbers. We will be 50 feet from the BVW to the closest edge of the tank, and about, let's see, what do we got here? Looks like about 65 or 70 feet to the closest edge of the leaching system. What else? We have erosion control as a 12-inch straw wattle that starts at the existing stone wall, being the property line, and it encompasses our whole project, including the site access, which brings you up between existing houses 91 and 95 to Tilton Ave. As mentioned, this is just a skinny driveway strip to a retreat style lot out back. So that's kind of a quick rundown. I'm sure there's a bunch of questions. So if someone wants to lead, I'll answer whatever questions you have for me. Thank you.
So who delineated the wetland line?
The wetlands were delineated by Brooke Monroe.
Okay, and when did she go out and do her inspection and site evaluation?
I believe it was early summer of this year.
Okay. And have you incorporated any plans to respond to the previously issued enforcement order?
We haven't really included any plans. It was discussed with the property owner regarding some of the dumping that had occurred on the site and, removal of some of the trash and debris around the place. It's, as mentioned, it's been abandoned for approximately 15 years. So the site has kind of gathered up some trash scattered around. So, one proposal is to, at a minimum, kind of hand eliminate a lot of that stuff that's located around the site. But
Yeah,
no,
the trash was, I was a member of the commission in 2006, not 2016. Megan, when was the order? 15 years ago. Good Lord.
2006 was the enforcement.
And there was, the alteration, there was a lot of trash that had been placed and stored around the site at that time.
yeah, so I mean, we don't really have any significant plan in place. We're willing to clean it up, but there's no detailed plan of attack as far as that goes.
Okay, so clearly the house is not on city sewer, requires a septic system. Is it currently occupied?
No, it is not.
Okay, and what are the plans for occupation?
The plans for occupation is the house.
Is the current owner planning to renovate and then resell the property? Or are they planning on living on the site themselves?
Nope, I believe the intent is to renovate it without a change in footprint. The intent is to use the, existing framing, but it does need a lot of work on the inside. So it would be the existing home more or less, and then ultimately, I believe the intent is to sell the property.
Sell it. Okay. I will let the other commissioners ask some questions, but I feel they may be a little bit at a disadvantage on, like, how would we proceed with getting action on the outstanding enforcement order and cleaning up the site and restoration. So, but does anyone have questions? Or comments?
I've got a few, Stephanie.
Yes.
Okay, my first question is, I'm curious to know why they're not hooking up to city water, to city sewer and going for septic.
I believe, I think the owner looked into the feasibility of that. I believe there is a sewer out on Tilton Avenue. But with the, I think, I'm not 100% sure on that. Typically, Title V is required, it's a distance thing. So if it's more than like 300 feet to hook up to an existing service, it's generally considered not, financially feasible. We would also be dealing with, high groundwaters and the crossing of the existing stream here, which can be done, but it's, definitely a more invasive process than, doing the septic system in the back of the yard.
Mm-hmm. And then my other kind of general comment is that I find it really difficult to consider a septic system without knowing the context of what's going to be happening with the rest of the site. There's quite a lot of pavement that's happening in and around. I see there's like a concrete pad as well to the what is this, kind of the northeast of the existing structure. And I kind of feel a little bit uncomfortable about trying to improve a septic when we don't really know what's happening with the house itself. How many bedrooms does the house have, and how many will it have? And are they going to build on top? Because it's quite a small structure for the kinds of houses that are normally popular nowadays.
Yep, based on the existing bedroom count, we've proposed a 3-bedroom septic system. So it is sized based on what's currently there. I believe the assessors consider it a 3-bedroom, and then the Title V definitions of a bedroom are a little bit different, but we design it based off of what we currently see. So it's considered a repair and with no increase in flow.
And is the construction for this going to happen first, and then a year later the house might be renovated? So they're basically going to be moving soils and materials and stuff on the site twice, or is this the intention to do it, come before the board now, get permission for the septic, then come back for any changes to the house, but to do all the work at the same time, as opposed to disturbing the site twice?
Yeah, I
Or
mean,
more than that?
we're not anticipating any disturbance as far as, well, any earthwork, I should say, regarding the house. That's all gonna be, foundation up work. So really, we're not gonna be disturbing the site twice. I mean, any work on the house is gonna be accessed by the existing driveway, and, they should remain on the driveway. So the earthwork and the wetland disturbance scope of work is really limited to the septic system. So when they do the septic system, we're basically proposing our erosion control limit to become the edge of the lawn. So we're kind of going to establish the the edge of lawn, which is also gonna be the permanent activity limit with the septic system. So I think I hope I answered your question, but the work on the house, it's kind of a different scope of work with minimal to no impact on, the resource areas we're discussing tonight.
So Megan, do any of the other commissioners have questions or comments? And Joanne, thank you. I think those were helpful.
So I do have a question. And so this comes from personal information because I do live on Tilton Ave. I am not in a butter. But as far as I remember, that concrete pad that's there now, there were people living in a building that caught on fire like 2 years ago there. And that concrete pad is practically the same size as the existing house foundation is. And I have the concern that there will be something built there where you're going to end up with people living there, because it is a big piece of property. It is very well hidden. And I feel like that concrete pad makes me, I don't know what's going on with it. And I find it to be suspicious to have it just sitting there during the house renovation work.
Yeah, I can't speak a whole lot to that, but yeah, there is an existing concrete pad. I don't know the history, and I wouldn't doubt someone has lived in it in the past. But as far as for our proposal, I mean, it's not gonna have any utilities to it. There's not gonna be plumbing tied in. I mean, as the engineers, we, at least during and after, soon after construction, we kind of have oversight on this. So we're gonna be going out and checking the plumbing connections, and, they can't just put up another house without someone knowing about it. So I see the concern based on the history, but, shy of ripping the pad out.
But there won't be anything run to it. There's no electricity, no plumbing. It's just going to be a concrete pad that's sitting there.
Yeah, it's just an existing pad. I mean, at this point, it's almost just an extension of the paved driveway. So, maybe it could be used as a parking spot, but I believe there are no intent to, develop that into any type of livable space. I'm sure the commission could condition something, to state along those lines as well, but.
Okay, is Dave associated with this project? He's in the attendees list, and he has submitted a chat that says we are thinking of putting a shed on it.
Okay, yeah,
So is Dave the owner?
I believe he is one of them, yes.
Okay, so maybe we should make him a panelist so he can speak and answer that question for Bonnie.
Sure.
Pam, would you?
Yeah, he should be all set.
All right, thank you. So Dave, if you would please answer Bonnie's question. You'll need to unmute yourself if you're muted.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, hi, Bonnie. Yeah, that's just a pad that was, I think it was like a garage at one time, and we're considering putting a shed on there, but there's no electricity, nothing going there. They won't let us build a structure on there to build a second house.
Thank you for that. And I just saw that we had a question from, looks like Debbie Peterson.
Not ready to take questions from the
Okay.
public yet?
I've actually got a couple more, Stephanie, if I may.
Please, unless, Bonnie, did you have other questions before I go back to Joanne?
No, my concern was, like I said, I know that there were issues on that land beforehand, so that was my concern. So
We're gonna make it look all pretty now. This thing
Excellent.
was abandoned. It's a mess right now, but we're gonna clean it up and turn it back into something really nice.
Anne?
So I wanted to ask about So there's a lot of detail on what's happening with the septic in the plans, but can you just kind of talk us through what's happening at the rest of the site in terms of, I know Megan and her conservation agents report noted a ton of invasive species. Are you planning on clearing those out? What are you going to replace them with? How are you going to handle the crossing over the waterway right now? I'm assuming it probably needs a little bit of work too, guessing, just based on the history of the site. So can you just kind of talk us through all the rest of that besides just the septic?
Yeah, again, this is Peter. I guess I'll start quick and then I might pass it off to David, but basically, as mentioned, the dashed thick lines are the proposed work limit. We're basically gonna be clearing out a lot within that. Most of this tree line area shown is invasives like the Japanese knotwood. So a lot of that will be cleared within the work limit areas. I'm sure they're trying to expand the lawn areas as much as possible. We don't particularly have any specific, trees or plantings proposed. And as far as the driveway goes, it has supported vehicles. I think if you were to bring heavy equipment over that section, it would probably be in your best interest to lay down like some steel road plates to distribute the load a little bit. But we have had, backhoes out here doing the test pits and, larger pickups and stuff with no issues. So I guess if David has anything to add on that.
No, we're just hoping to expand the lawn a little bit so we can, it's a beautiful property of 2 acres and we would like to make the lawn, expand it further, away from the house. We're obviously going to put some shrubs around the house and we'll probably do some, it's possible we'll do some repaving around the house. Yeah.
So has this, and I don't know if Megan or Pam, if this is something that you can answer, but so has this gone through the planning board? And does it need to? And I'm wondering, like, fire access across this driveway and whether a fire truck could get over it, stuff like that.
Yeah, building department already gave us the green light on expanding the house up. And they have already visited the site and checked everything out and gave us the thumbs up.
I don't think that the permit is issued or
Sorry, Pam, you broke up just then.
I don't know if the permit was issued. Megan,
I'm sorry, building permit?
yeah,
Yeah, my understanding is this doesn't, as proposed, doesn't require, it's not a subdivision. As far as I know, it doesn't trigger site plan review because they're not bringing in, they're doing a septic system, they're not extending a roadway, they're not extending utilities. And again, it's not a subdivision, so it's not triggering planning board review. As they're proposing it now through their discussions with the building department is the zoning enforcement office. And the understanding is that because they are renovating within the existing footprint and foundation of the house, they can pull a building permit from that. If they were to, be building a larger house, trying to divide it into 2 houses, they wouldn't be able to pull a building permit. They'd need zoning relief because there's, 8 feet of frontage on Tilton Road with the driveway. So it is not conforming to zoning. So currently, it's being designed now so that they don't need to go to zoning. And that's why they're restricted in terms of their building, renovating
Correct.
the existing house, because at least as the building department is confirmed, they can pull a building permit to renovate the house without going to zoning.
And we've done that.
Okay, I'd like to weigh in here because there is an outstanding violation and enforcement order. I would like to suggest strongly that the owner work with his wetland consultant and Megan. What I'd like to suggest is that they go out to the site together, meaning Megan and your wetland consultant, and take a look at what alterations have occurred. And I'd like to see a plan for restoration and improvements.
Okay.
Do any of the other commissioners have any kind of comments in response to that, or any other questions or comments?
I was actually hoping for the same information, because as I'm looking at it, and as a person who hates lawns and loves trees, I would like to see what the proposed clearing will be as well.
Yeah.
There's no, we wouldn't be cutting trees to make more lawn. There is a tree that's in the driveway that needs to go because it's just in the way of everything.
So what's all that wooded area
They're
that's
unhealthy.
outlined? Yeah.
I'm
But
sorry?
So none of
It's
the wooded
actually-
area that's outlined is not going to be coming down then? Because that's how it's marked in the back.
No, that's the woods is staying there. The area in the front of the front porch, you see the porch? And if you head down, that's already wide open. And it's just long, tall, grassy weeds. And it just looks horrible. And it looked really
Okay,
nice
so that's
because there was
not-
grass there.
Okay, so that's not actually trees then. Very good.
No,
I see
think one of
wooded
the-
and assume that it is.
no.
I think one
And
of
the,
the
and the
things,
tree that we want to take down is actually where the old septic cesspool is. It's got to come down anyway.
if I may, one of the things I think we need to remember in looking at this plan is that the entire property is within the buffer zone. So it's either wetland or buffer zone to the wetland. And that gives the commission jurisdiction over any land alteration on the property. And that would include clearing, new clearing of vegetation. So I think Bonnie's point, we should, you need to show what the limit of clearing is proposed on the property. And I mean, if it's a lawn area that's being mown, that's one thing, but if it's woody shrubs that are growing up, that's a little different.
Yeah, I can show Megan when she comes.
And Bonnie, I hope I didn't cut you off.
Oh, no. I'm happy for all of the information. So thank you.
Okay, any other comments, questions from the commissioners? I think the question that was asked by Ms. Peterson was answered. Can the existing small shared driveway support the weight of equipment and materials crossing over? She made a comment that the present concrete pad was a garage that was lived in until 3 years ago. And then she made a comment about it being a pre-existing non-conforming use. When the fire occurred 3 years ago, there was limited access and it was not possible to get water quickly on the site. So those are unfortunate. I mean, those are concerns, but they're not concerns, access for public safety vehicles and first responders is not the primary concern of the Conservation Commission unless they were proposing widening the roadway or something and it was in the buffer zone area. So are there any other comments from the public or questions? Joyce, you have your hand up. No, you just muted yourself.
How long is the actual driveway from here to the home? Do you know how long the driveway is?
Peter, can you answer that?
I can't hear you.
Yeah, I can if you give me one 1 second to pull the plan up. So from the house to existing Tilton, let's see. It's about 325 feet from Tilton Ave at the sidewalk. If you were to follow the driveway and get to the closest corner of the house where the porch is. So 325 is
Okay.
the longest length on the driveway.
Would that be an issue for salting or anything like that in the wintertime? With the, with the areas that are around there, the delicate areas that are around there?
Are you asking me or the rest of the commission?
Whoever.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point, Joyce. That might be
Good thing you're
something
saying.
the commission could consider limiting de-icing activities. Especially where the roadway crosses over, where you can see where it intersects the wetland area
Mhm.
in the pond. Megan, would you make a note of that? Okay, we have, when is the, okay, this is Pat Galligan, who lives at 91 Tilton Avenue. The driveway abuts her yard. She wants to know when construction would be taking place. What is your planned time frame? Because of course you need your necessary permits. And then she's concerned the house is small and how would it have 3 bedrooms, which is really not a concern of the Conservation Commission and not something that's subject to wetlands protection, as long as they're not expanding the house. So if someone could answer her first question about construction timeframe.
Yeah, we're already working on the house. We're starting demolition now. We have our permits in hand.
Interior demolition,
Correct.
because no exterior work really can take place until you have your permit.
I can't hear you, Stephanie.
I'm just saying that exterior work should probably not take place until you have your permit from the Conservation Commission. Again, because the entire property is within the 100-foot buffer zone.
Right, do you mean as far as working on the house, the exterior of the house?
No, I'm any kind of earthworks.
Oh, yeah,
or,
okay.
Again, clearing, that type of thing. Let's see. All right, it sounds like you need to continue the hearing to the next meeting.
Mhm.
Okay, do I have a motion to continue 93 Tilton Avenue, notice of intent to the December 15th meeting?
Sparks here, so moved.
Do I have a second?
Second, where's,
Zygmunt-
sorry,
No, go ahead, please.
All in favor, Danielson, aye.
Sparks, aye.
Sigmund, aye.
where's I?
Motion passes, and whoever, are you sharing the screen, Peter? You can stop at this point. All right, thank you. All right, that brings us to, now I have to find the page. The next item on the agenda is a notice of intent for 53 Cypress Drive. And I see Mr. Itanero here. This project was discussed at a previous meeting. The applicant asked, or the applicant's representative asked that the commission close the hearing. The commission had asked the applicant to explore with the planning board a reduction in the size of the roadway. At this point, I understand from Megan that that was denied, but at this point, the decision is required, the commission is required to vote on the project. No other information can be heard because the hearing has been closed. I don't know if, Azu, if you have any comments on that. Again, the commission cannot hear or consider any new information related to the project. And as part of their voting. Azu, are you there? Okay. It has been, what, Megan, 2 months since the commission talked about this project? Was it the last meeting we had that?
Yes, it was the September 15th meeting. So yes, at this point, basically 2 months.
Do folks want a refresher just again on?
Stephanie, we can't hear you.
I wasn't saying anything right then.
Nothing.
Sorry.
So I'm trying to see if I had downloaded the plan. But I don't have a copy of it.
Stephanie, do you want me to share the plan
Please,
had from the September 15th meeting?
yeah, please.
Okay, do we see the plan set?
Yeah.
So again, this is the same plan set that was discussed at the September 15th meeting prior to closing the hearing.
So, what are your thoughts, commissioners? What are your thoughts on this project?
I'm reading the agent's report, and so it says the planning board voted unanimously to deny the proposed definitive subdivision plan due to lack of required radius of road entrance from Cypress Drive. Can you just explain that in like layman's terms?
Yes, so basically, in layman's terms, if you look at where Evolix Way is proposed to come in off of Cypress Drive, and you look sort of the left-hand side, the way the entrance flares out versus
Curve.
it sort of butts right up against the property line. So it's talking about that flare, you know, if you want to call it that, that's the radius.
Okay.
So
So the denial didn't have anything to do with the things that we were talking about last time, which was the amount of pavement for the size of this development, basically.
I'm sorry, Joanne, but I think you're treading in dangerous water of new information.
Oh, okay. Okay, I'm just trying to understand what the denial
Right.
actually was and whether it.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
I'm not even sure we can take into consideration the fact that it was denied, because that would be new information.
Okay.
And again, kind of a reminder, I think when we asked that they go and ask for the waiver, which we did talk about and was part of the discussion, because they insisted on closing the hearing, I think we probably mentioned that well, yeah, of course, if they came back and revised the plan in response to that, we would have had to reopen the hearing. So without reopening the hearing, we really, and we'd have to do that at the request of the applicant. We can't reopen the
Gotcha.
hearing on our own.
After we take a vote, am I allowed to like just ask Megan for some questions, or is that not allowed either?
No, you can, certainly after.
Okay. I just want to understand what happened, so it doesn't really have any bearing
Yes,
on this
yeah,
anyway.
no,
Okay, thank you.
Good questions, yep. Any other thoughts from? Well, I will share mine. I have felt all along that this project just doesn't make sense for the site, and certainly not for the wetlands. The amount of impervious surface and stormwater management that needs to be constructed to support the number of lots just is outsized for the site. And I would not vote in favor of this project. All right, any other comments? Does anyone want to make a motion?
Can we just
Joyce?
move- Can we just move to close the project
We
or close
we closed the hearing at
close
the,
the hearing?
we closed the hearing at the last meeting at the applicant's request.
So what is the step? What is the next step?
We have to vote tonight.
Oh,
We
okay.
have to vote on it.
To
Yeah,
deny or to accept?
to deny or approve, yes. Again, if the applicant was here and asked the board to reopen the hearing, we could consider reopening the hearing, but we can't reopen it on our own.
So aren't we forced to deny?
That's up to the commission. I feel we should, because I just don't think the project makes sense, and I don't think
Well-
it provides the level of protection to the wetland resources for the benefit that would be derived. And there certainly are alternatives to the proposed development. It may not be as many lots, but there are alternatives.
Well, there's only 2 lots on it now, aren't there?
That's, yes.
With a lot of roadway. So I'd like to make a motion to deny the project.
Do I have a second?
See who's talking?
Sparks
it's
here, I
Joanne
second.
Goodman.
Can we stop sharing the screen? That would make it a little easier.
Thank you. I can't get everybody's voices, so I need.
No, that's. So Joanne made the motion to deny. Do we have a second?
Sparks, I second.
All in favor, Danielson, aye.
Sparks, I.
Zigman, aye.
Boris, aye?
Okay. The next item on the agenda is review and approval of the meeting minutes from 9:15. Did everyone have a chance to review those? Any corrections, changes? Do I have a motion?
I accept the minutes from September.
Do I have a
Zigman, I'll
second? All in favor, Danielson, aye.
Sparks, I.
Boris, aye?
The next item on the agenda is an appointee representative from the Conservation Commission to the Open Space and Recreation Plan Working Group. I was originally the appointee to this group. Joanne is also an appointee, and I can't remember if we had 2 appointees or Joanne was at large. I think you were at large, right?
I wear so many hats these days. I'm not quite sure which hat I was wearing on that. So I don't know.
But I think you are staying on as in whatever role you were appointed, right?
I believe so. Yes, they still have me.
So we still need a representative from the Conservation Commission. I have a very busy schedule and do not want to accept that role. Is there someone else that would like to participate? It's a very worthwhile effort. Is everybody familiar with what the open space and recreation plan is for the city? Okay, it is. So we have at least one person who doesn't. It is, it's state mandated in a way that cities and towns have an open space and recreation plan. And what that plan does is it seeks to elicit support and input from members of the community to define what the community's open space and recreation needs are into the next 7 years, and develop an action plan for how to achieve the goals and purposes identified in that plan. Brockton has had an open space plan since 2005, I think, right, Pam? When I think the first one was done. And generally, a lot of the information that documents what natural resources the city has, what current open space and recreational facilities exist in the city, that's all documented. It gets updated as necessary every few years when you update your open space plan. But it really gives you an opportunity to engage with the public and find out what new purposes, uses, needs exist out there, and update the plan accordingly. When I mentioned that it's somewhat mandated, there are certain grants that are available to the city because we're a gateway city. Brockton qualifies for park grants where there's money that can be put towards park rehabilitation, creation. Eligible for the land grants, which allows communities or helps communities acquire and protect open land for permanent open space.
You've faded out again.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm talking as loud as I can. I don't know what's. Okay, how much of that did you hear? Any, not all, none?
A little bit.
Well, I knew what it was, so it.
How many people sit on the committee and where are they, like, what is it made up of?
Yeah, Megan, please, because Megan is the staff lead on this for the city.
Yes, so currently, and it's been tough because the working group was formed in 2019 with the public input plan for 2020. And our plans ended up being canceled due to COVID. So we're trying to, do alternate community outreach in terms of a survey, and I need to schedule a public input session via Zoom and then possibly one in person in the spring. But in terms of the working group, it started as people from boards. So there was, Stephanie was representing the Conservation Commission. We have someone from the Parks Commission, and someone from the Garden Club, from the Brockton Farmers Market. So basically, sort of stakeholders in Brockton's existing open space environmental groups, whether they be city boards like Concom and Parks Commission, or recognized organizations like the Garden Club. And then we had a couple of we had a representative for sports, that sort of side of it. And then we have a couple of at-larges. So I believe Joanne, even though she's on Concom, she's on it sort of as an at-large, meaning as a resident. And then we have someone else, again, who's interested, but not on any of the boards. So she would be considered an at-large as well. So yeah, it's made up of, a representative of the various stakeholders in open space, plus a couple of additional representatives of the resident of Brockton body.
So I have a question, and I don't know if maybe this is literally totally like off the board or not, because I don't know who's associated with what here. So take the question as that. Has Vivian, I don't know how to pronounce her last name, is Senatore, been involved in this at all? Because I know I was working with her doing open, like public garden stuff that basically fell through again because of COVID. So I feel like I want to reach that out to her because I feel like she's got a lot of good connections for doing exactly all of those things.
Right, and she's currently not on the working group. I'd have to go back. We did originally, it wasn't a set number of people, so I did reach out to quite a few people. And I don't off the top of my head remember all the yeses and nos and, not availables. So, it's certainly, it's not a set number of people. It was, I know I sent out invitations to, a whole list of names that I put together, and basically, I think we have the same, with the exception of one person who had to drop out. We had a board, a working group made up of the people who said yes, when I originally put it together in 2019.
How many hours are expected?
It's really, in terms of what the working group is actually going to do, it's the only, I would say, required hours is it would be helpful if members of the working group can attend the public input session. So there'll be one via Zoom in December, once I schedule it, and again, possibly one in the spring, hopefully in person. So that would be, a couple hours. And then once that public input stage is completed, where the working group would come back in, would be in the synthesis phase. So that would be spring of 2022. And that would be, a couple meetings to digest the public input and draft the new goals. So basically, at the end of the report, there's a list of goals that are going to guide. So basically, the working group would be helping me draft those goals. But in terms of the actual writing of the report, scheduling things, I will be doing sort of that legwork. So it won't be a time commitment in terms of writing anything, putting the report together. It would be the 2 public input sessions, one or two meetings to discuss what the goals are going to be, and then some time to review the draft. So that's sort of a, as long as it would take you, a couple hours maybe to read the draft and give me comments before I submit it. So it is, and then beyond that, it's whatever people want to put into it. I've checked in with people throughout COVID to, sort of get leads. Mostly the help that I need is just with, contacts and reaching out to people. So it's more, if anyone, to schedule, sort of like a breakout session that I could do with them. But ultimately I will be doing a lot of the legwork. So it'll be the public input sessions and then reviewing the draft and drafting the goals. So, not a lot of, it won't be a weekly meeting. It won't even be a monthly meeting from here on out, most likely, because
And is the term like 2 years? Is that why you went 19 to 21 and now 21 to 23? Or is
so
it?
technically the open space plan is a 7-year plan and it expired June 2020. So originally the idea was we formed the working group in 2019 in order to do the public input, draft it, and submit it for 2020. So that was the original, it was supposed to be 20 to 2020, but we got to the point of, we had scheduled the public input sessions, distributing the information, and they were planned for March. And so, we ended up canceling those. And then since then, we've been putting them off, not knowing sort of how COVID was going to go, when could we have indoor meetings again. And it's been hard to ramp it up again, which is why it's been a more protracted, but it was supposed to be basically a year, a working group for a year to facilitate the public input, review the draft, submit the draft. And due to COVID and due to, the backlog and the slowdown of everything, that's why it's ended up being that the goal is to submit for what would have been the 2022 deadline, even though technically, it already expired in beginning of July 2020. Our thought is to get it in now, July 2022. It gets us back on track for the grant cycles. So that's where the goal is coming from, is the grant cycles. And that would be summer 2022 would be the next grant cycle.
I mean, I'm fine to do it and represent. I just don't want to step in anyone else's way. I'm new to the committee, so whatever you all would like, but I'm happy to step in and do it.
Meg, is it possible for other commissioners to also attend the public sessions, even if we can't commit to, actually being a formal representative?
Yes, so certainly the public input session is going to be, advertised and distributed to ideally attract more than just the working group. I mean, the point being, the working group met in 2019, discussed as a group, what sort of things they'd like to see in the goals. But, we can't write the report based on what, that small group of less than 10 people wanted as goals, which is why you need to do the public input, incorporate those ideas into the goals. So yes, the public input sessions, we have the
will be open to everybody, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
Unless, unless you're doing it like as an adjunct of someone else's meeting, some kind of civic groups meeting to try to get.
Right,
broader
and
out.
that's what I was
Yes.
saying, more for sort of like breakout groups, like potentially doing something, like at the Council on Aging, something more targeted, but we're required to do, at least one public input session, which is supposed to be anyone can attend, which is why we're doing one on Zoom for now. And then, if that seems insufficient, then, doing a in-person one in the spring. It's been tough. I've attended a couple of in-person things that I've done in previous years. I was recently at the NAACP STEM Week that I've done every year since I started working here. And it was in person at the public library, and turnout was super low this year. We used to get a bunch of kids. We'd do like wetland activities. This year I had like an open space type activity, but there just was not, there was a couple kids there this year. So, in-person stuff is still tough, unfortunately.
Yeah, we had the opposite. I was working with Pat Monteith and we had about 45 kids at STEM Week at the library.
Oh,
so.
yeah.
Yeah, so
Okay.
I think that, I'm happy, like I said, I'm happy to do, if there's structure, I'm never gonna step out of what I'm told to do when it comes to things. So as long as there's structure and I have told what to do, I'm happy to serve. And I'll do, I can commit to that. I just don't want to, like I said, step on anyone else's toes. If they want to do it, it's fine.
All right, do I have a motion to appoint Laura as our representative on the Open Space and Recreation Committee? Joyce is seconding that.
I do.
All in favor, Danielson, aye.
Parks, aye.
Zigman, aye.
Forsythe.
Okay, perfect. So
All
with
right, and
so
if
just
I
to
could,
add,
so
Laura,
what-
I can reach out because I want to schedule the public input session. So now that we have our Concom representative again, finally. I'll be reaching out to the working group again to
Okay.
pose a couple ideas for that online Zoom public input session, just to see which one the most people can attend. And then we'll do that. And again, I'll be leading it. We'll be looking for working group members to attend, mostly to help facilitate it, to spread the word about it, friends and family, other groups. And this goes for the rest of the commission too. I mean, if you can attend.
Yeah, I was going to echo that the commissioners should all, please make sure we get email notification posted on your Facebook pages. When you see it on, if you subscribe to any of the city's Facebook pages, please share it. I mean, it's really important. This city has a broad composition of population, different ethnic groups, different income levels, and it's very difficult at times to get adequate representation from all those groups.
Okay, yeah, so hopefully
All right.
doing that shortly.
So the last item on the agenda was discussion around the ordinance. It is 8:11. I have this meeting tonight. I have another meeting tomorrow night. And
Yes,
I
please,
would
can we
like-
postpone.
I would like to postpone it. So
Yeah.
let's put this on the agenda for the next meeting.
Mhm.
And thank you, everybody. We get a lot of work done tonight.
You did. So I make a motion to close the meeting.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy
Woo-hoo.
Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Thank you. Good
People
night.
are getting a chance to spend it with family this